Oh, wow, okay. Boy, there are a lot of moving parts. There are even more moving parts now than there used to be. Hello, everyone, everywhere. There are several elephants in this room. We are going to take them one elephant at a time, as you should with elephants. First elephant. We are currently restreaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, of all things. Good morning, Heath. Demon Dreamer, hello. Nice. Okay, so you two are on YouTube. I can tell that thanks to the restream chat. So, okay. Boy, there's so much that's happened since the last time. So, as you can tell, I'm streaming more than once a month. I've decided I want to kind of lean into these streams a little bit because I think they're helpful and I enjoy doing them. So we're going to try and do them more often. I'm looking at every 2 weeks. Chris V, good morning on Twitch. Hopefully everybody, I've got the chatbot set to, thank you, Travis. That's good to know. That was one of my future questions. I can see the meter moving, but I don't know if anybody can hear me. So thank you for confirming you could hear me. So hopefully the Restream chat is doing the relay mode. So everybody on every platform should be able to see chat the same, or at least like everybody's messages. So hopefully that's working. I don't have the browser window up with every single platform because that's just a lot. And my computer's being taxed hard enough as it is to record and stream at the same time. So yeah, so 2 weeks is looking like probably, the second and last Friday of the month is probably a good thing for me. Possibly more, we'll see how it goes. But, so that's it. We're going hard on all of the platforms. My philosophy is this will never be big enough to be like, to require being exclusive. Yes, comfy looks great. We'll get the comfy in a minute. Thank you. I shouldn't say something I built looks great. That's egotistical. Maybe I should. I don't know. I have a lot I've also had a lot of coffee, and I have more because we're gonna go possibly long today. I have a number of things I want to get done, so we're gonna just keep going till they're done. That's the thing. Oi, 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 oi. Don't worry. Well, see, I didn't really get burned out before. There were other things that happened that kind of got in the way. But I think this is more sustainable. So that's elephant number one, is the fact that we're streaming on multiple platforms. I guess elephant number two is that. So here's the deal, right? I've been resisting any kind of crowdfunding until now. It's because it's like I've never been big enough, or I'm probably never going to get big enough for it to really matter. But this is time that I would otherwise be spending building stuff for the shop, obviously. And if I'm not, that means like that's what I do for a living, right? I will be doing these streams whether or not anybody donates to my coffee thing here. But it will be encouraging more of these if people can donate. One way or another, please enjoy them. Some people are in a better financial situation than others. Don't feel obligated, but it would be very cool if, I could make a few bucks here and there, and all that money will go back into the stream. And along those lines, as you can see, things look a little different. Why do things look a little different? So the face cam is now just a webcam. This is all that NVIDIA broadcast stuff. This is a fake bokeh depth of field thing. It doesn't look quite as nice. I don't like it as much, but that's because I switched the DSLR mirrorless camera to being the overhead camera, which I kind of realized, like, this is the most important camera. My coffee is in the frame. Let's get the coffee out of frame. This is the camera that we spend the most time on, and it's really the one that should be the highest quality one, because this overhead camera should look a lot better now. You should be able to see things more clearly, read things more clearly. And this is really the most important thing. My face is not the most important thing on this stream. This view is the most important thing. So that's why I went with that. Now I did get a better webcam for the face cam, so it looks okay. It doesn't look great, but you know, for the chat cam, it's going to be a little bit of a downgrade, but this is so much of an upgrade that I think it's worth it. And again, if the stream makes any money, that will go back in so I can get another DSLR for the face cam, that kind of thing. That's how we're doing that. So, whoo, there's a lot. How many elephants is that? 2 or 3? 3 probably if you include coffee. Let's go back to this. So the reason we're doing the transitions now, you see a little stinger transition that comes in. I had, in order to make this all work together with the new camera and switching things around and doing a webcam, I had to do some funny business with the picture-in-picture. It's a long, complicated process because I had to like rotate stuff, and some stuff I could rotate. I had to rotate in the software, but I couldn't rotate it in hardware, and so I have to change the position of the picture-in-picture. It's a whole big, complicated thing, but what it means is there's a little bit of a glitch, not really a glitch, but like the picture-in-picture position will move depending on what scene I'm in. So you can kind of see it. If we go back here, so keep your eye on the picture-in-picture up in the top corner there. See how it kind of went blip? Oh, thank you, Ryan, a donation already. Thank you so much. The reason that happens is because I'm literally having to invert the image or rotate the image in software because I can't do it in hardware because this camera can't do that. So the picture-in-picture is in the wrong place and upside down. However, I thought it was important to be able to see this view not upside down. So if I were, actually I can do it. I can show you. Let me see, where are we here? Isolated picture-in-picture. There's what the picture-in-picture actually looks like. So I've had to like isolate it, crop it out, move it, rotate it. There's a whole other thing that's going on here. But because of that, when we switch scenes, there's a little flash when it moves. The transition just kind of covers that up and blends it. If you look real closely, you can still see it, but I'm working on solving that. I don't really like the stinger transition, but it's there just to make things a little bit more professional and smooth and clean. So that's what we're doing for that. That's why that's happening. Okay, that's elephant 3 or 4, I don't know. Next elephant. I know what I need, more coffee. That's exactly what I need. Oh, we will be getting to questions, I promise. So all of you who are joining on Twitch, I used to stream on Twitch quite a bit, as you may know. Hi, I'm back. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. I don't even know what this looks like on, like, Twitter's the weird one, right? Like, I know, yeah, on Facebook and stuff, but Twitter is like, when I had that as an option. Oh, there's another thing that, like, any donations to the stream are going to go into. I bought the upgrade package for Restream. So we don't have branding on this. I can restream to more platforms more easily. I can stream to the Operation Puppet Facebook page itself. And that'll require the subscription. So that's the kind of thing that money to the stream would be going into. Just so you know, full transparency. Yeah, okay, what's the next elephant? I think we're almost out of elephants. Boy, I've been prepping for this ever since I decided I really wanted to lean into the streams. You know, I want to try and make these as good as possible. One of the reasons for that, I wasn't even sure. This is the next elephant. Let's go back here. One of the things that happened recently, and I don't even know if I should even bother talking about this, but it is a thing that happened and it is still kind of happening and it caused some waves. One of the most noted puppet builders in the puppet building community has recently embraced NFTs. And as you may know, is Adam Krutinger. I don't want to get into a whole thing. I'm not here to debate the merits of NFTs. NFTs are not a thing that Operation Puppet will endorse ever. My position is that it's just a big scam, and there is nothing good about it. Even if you discount all of the environmental impact stuff, it is still extremely toxic and problematic. We want nothing to do with it, and because of that, I am not endorsing Adam Krutinger as a puppet builder anymore. I'm not going to send people to his channel until or if he changes his mind. Hopefully he will. I don't think he will. But anyway, that's among the reasons why I decided, I really want to go heavy on these streams now, because I know that there's been some backlash against Adam, and people are probably looking for somebody else to go to, and I want to kind of provide that for people. It's like, the only real options out there are like, there's Adam Krutinger, there's a couple of people, smaller streamers on Facebook who do it, but other than that, there's like, BJ Geyer's courses, which I highly recommend on the Stan Winston School of Character Arts, but those are, you got to pay for those, right? So I kind of want to step in and be the person you can go to without worrying about getting hit up for NFTs. Sorry, Adam, but Adam doesn't even know who I am. Adam's got 100,000 subscribers. I have 500. Like, it's not. We're not even in the same ballpark. So, yeah, it is sad. I hope he sees the light. I hope he changes his mind. I think his numbers have actually gone up, of course, since the NFT thing, because he's got a whole new crop of people who are suddenly interested in his work now, of course. Whether that lasts or not is the real question, right? So anyway, no NFTs. This is a no NFT zone. It's weird looking at this camera now. It's up higher than the other camera, and it's very odd to look at it. I keep looking over here because that's where the old camera used to be. And I'm also looking at chat. Okay, that's that out of the way. This actually looks better than the test. I don't know why. I tweaked some settings. It was very low res with the following around thing, but oh well. Anyway, so yeah, there's Comfy. Comfy was my last commission that I did. BJ Geyer courses, are they per course or can you pay for? So I think it's only subscription. Rainier McFarland, hello, nice to see you. Might not be able to answer a whole stream. I'll buy you a coffee. Thank you so much. We are getting to the second half of your question today, FYI. So, if you can stick around, that would be great. If not, obviously this will be up on the VOD. So, BJ Geyer courses. I believe the Stan Winston School is only subscription, which is kind of good because it means and you don't have to renew from month to month. You can pay for a month and then cancel, but it's all you can eat. Right, so it's not just the BJ Geyer courses. There's lots of courses on the Stan Winston School that are really, really useful for puppet builders. And I highly recommend doing BJ Geyer's courses. In fact, if you can do BJ Geyer's courses, that's kind of a better starting point than Adam Krutinger. I don't want to slag off Adam Krutinger. That's not a whole thing. Adam has done so much for the puppet building community. I don't want to imply that I'm doing that, but BJ Geyer is coming at it. Adam's skills have got better over the years and his techniques have got more professional over the years, whereas BJ kind of started there when he was making his courses, right? So the stuff you will learn in BJ Geyer's courses is you're starting from a very professional level. And even though BJ says that his courses are he constantly talks about how these are just foundational and beginner and stuff like that, they're not really. They're fairly advanced. You will learn foundational stuff, but it's going to get you to a more professional level quicker. So if you can afford to do the Stan Winston course, and they have sales all the time, so I would have followed them on social media because when I did them, I can't even remember. It wasn't expensive. It was like $30 or $40 or something like that. So that's great. I would highly recommend that. And come here because I'm just giving it away. I got the donations. We're ad busking. If you've seen the latest Oracle video, you know what ad busking is. So yes, that's that. Next, what are we doing today? We have questions. We have lots of questions. I still have plenty of questions I haven't even answered yet. We're doing Rainier McFarland's or Old Reindeer Museum on Twitter. We're doing the second half because they had a two-part question, and we're doing the second half of that question today. And we are carrying on with the build that we started on the first stream. And I've made some changes, and we're moving forward. I'm going to show another way of mounting the mouth plate that I've just been playing with. As a matter of fact, it's how Comfy is put together. So let's just get to it. Let's stop flopping your jaws and get to building the puppets. So let's review. Whew. Okay, so there's, I'm looking, YouTube's got winning right now for viewers. Just FYI, YouTube, you're winning. So, here's the pattern that we made last time. This is the freehand pattern that we just drew with a compass and a ruler and, you know. Thank you, Jelly Roll, because about ad busking. Exactly. Jelly Roll was up there. We can get him down in a minute. So this is the pattern that we made last time, and I have made 2 small alterations in it. As you can see, I did the thing that I talked about last time where I cut out the little Pac-Man circle in the cheek, in the corner here, because I did end up making it out of reticulated foam, and reticulated foam is a bit stiff, so it's always helpful to have a softer foam in the cheek, so the jaw will kind of move a little bit easier. So that's all that is. That's all this is. So what you do is you just draw a circle using the corner, and then you cut that out. You make your little Pac-Man shape. This part you build out of reticulated foam, and this part you build out of a softer foam like upholstery foam, polyfoam, that kind of thing. If you don't have a softer foam, you can still use reticulated foam, but you can carve it a bit thinner, so there isn't as much resistance. That's the whole point. You want the jaw to be nice and loose. So that's all this does. The other thing this does is if you take this Pac-Man shape and you make it bigger, diameter-wise, from the hole that is going in, and then when you glue it in, you align it and you make that bigger, it'll puff the cheeks out. You can control how much of a pucker you get on the cheeks. So that's a little thing to experiment with. But that's the first change I made when I built it. The other change I made was I took the mouth plate. Here, let's get the mouth plate. This is something I've been doing more often, and I quite like it. So you know how we made, this is the original mouth plate that we made last week, or 2 weeks ago, or whenever it was. And remember how I said we marked the center line, and then we went down a 1/4 inch, we marked the cut line, and that's where that's cut. I also cut off where the center line is, so there's a little bit of a gap. When you glue the mouth plate into the head, there's a little bit of a gap right at the back there. I can even show this actually on another skull here. So you see how there's that gap back there? What this is this another way of making like a hinge. You're not creating a hinge with the rigid mouth plate. You're creating the hinge with the fabric lining that you glue in there. And because now you've got this gap back here, that means the hinge is made out of only fabric. And that is, again, makes the jaw nice and loose, and you can open and close it really easily. You never want, because when you get fleece on this stuff, a lot of times it can kind of stiffen up. And for a performer who's using a puppet, potentially for hours, you don't want this to be a lot of effort. You want the jaw to open and close really easily and fluidly. So that's the only other change I made. And then I glued it in as normal, and we can have a look here. So this is the skull, or the whole head made. I just got the neck tucked up into here. But this is it. This is exactly the pattern that we made last time. And I think it's pretty darn good. This is, entirely freehand drawn, nothing special. The reason this is the same yellow as Comfy is because I ordered way more than I needed. I always do, just in case. And so there's going to be a lot of yellow puppets because I have a lot of yellow Nyla fleece. So yeah, I think it's pretty good. Now it is quite small. As we talked about last time, that's good. Always build small unless you have a reason not to. But yeah, I think that's a pretty nice, it's a good size, it's a good shape. Couple of things. I didn't put any grips in this at the moment for now. It's always harder to put grips in afterwards than it is when you're building it, but because I was just testing out to see how it looked, I didn't bother. And I'm not sure I'm going to, because it's small enough that there's really no room in there. You really don't need grips. And the reason that you use grips is, of course, is so you can drop the jaw, not flip the lid, right? As we know from my courses on doing camera puppetry, which I'm sure we've all watched, right? No, we have, of course not, to be silly. That's just a puppetry technique where, you know, when the puppet's talking, you always want to make sure you're dropping the jaw down, you're not flapping the top of the head up and down. And that's, again, part of why you use grips and part of why you want a nice loose jaw, so you can do that. So I'm still thinking about grips. What, if any, grips I wanted here. There's more than one kind of grip. You don't have to do finger loops. Oftentimes people will just do like a little kind of horseshoe shaped piece of foam, like EVA foam in there or something. So you can just kind of have something that will grip onto your finger. But I don't know, I'm still thinking about that. The other part of this is when you do a neck this style, you see that there's this hard edge, right? There's this line here. There's a couple of things we can do about that. I'm trying to get the whole move the jaw, thumb hurts at first. Yes, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why we are paying attention to things like making the cheek soft and making, you know, the lower jaw be able to be opened and closed easily. I'll tell you, there's nothing worse. When you're performing, there is nothing worse than an uncomfortable puppet. As good as a puppet looks on the outside, if it doesn't feel good to perform on the inside, it's not a good puppet. And, you know, sometimes you just have to make do. Sometimes the design requires. How tall is an ideal head in your opinion? I've been making several custom patterns and I feel like they might be too large. I don't know, Demon Dreamer, if you've watched the previous stream to this, but we talked about that, and it all gets scaled off of the mouth plate, right? So find like what your ideal mouth plate width is first, and then go from there. I like 4.5 to 5 inches is about the right point for me, but it might be different for you. Your hand may be different size. But everything gets scaled off of the width at the hinge of the mouth plate. Oh, another thing I should point out, actually, let's talk about this now. This is quite small, as you can see. This is about the size of Jelly Roll. Jelly Roll's pretty small. But as you can see, like, you know, there's not a whole lot of room in there, and that's good. But there will be times where you probably want to be a little bit bigger than that. So what you would do, oh, it's right here. What you would do in that case, if you want a bigger head, but you want to keep the mouth plate the same size, is when you put your compass down. Let me get a compass here. So remember how when we did this, we went off of where Pac-Man piece was in there. So we used the point of the hinge. Try to get this better centered on camera here. We used the point of the hinge as our center point. And then we went out, we measured, I can't remember, was it 4.5, something like that? Anyway, we went to the end of the line that we had calculated for our mouth plate, and then we just went around in a circle like that. What you can do is just make the center point further back, and then go to the end of the mouth plate, and then when you trace the circle, it will be a much bigger circle, right? So you can change where the center point sits, and then that circle will be bigger. So the mouth plate will be the same size, but the head itself will be bigger. And that's something you can experiment with and play around with. I like this. It just makes, I mean, this is a kind of a pleasing shape. It's very Pac-Man-y, and I like this. But there's other times for other characters that you would do differently. So that's how you would change kind of the size or the volume of the skull versus not changing the size of the mouth plate. So that's kind of how you would look at that. I don't really think there is an ideal size. It depends on who you're building it for. If you are, building it for yourself, you can judge that based on the size of your hand. But again, it starts from the width of the mouth plate at the hinge. And once you get that dialed in, you can kind of go from there and figure out what the size of the head should be based off of that. Does that make sense? I hope. Coffee. But yes, back to the muscle thing. So this is confession time for those of you who know the Oracle. I've made puppets, and it depends on the design, but sometimes there's just nothing you can do. A puppet's going to be uncomfortable. making a dog with a muzzle, so that might be the issue. I see. Okay, so that's a little bit different. If you're doing like a snout, because then it's really the snout that's the puppet part, right? And then you've got like the head behind that. So that you have a bit more flexibility with. You can make that as big or as small as you want. If you go back and watch the first one, you see how pretty much what you get is what you draw. So if you draw it about the size that you want, and that you think the finished product will look good, and you'll probably come close to that when you put it together. So I think that's that. But yeah, so something like the Oracle. If you've seen the Oracle, I can even get the Oracle down here. Let's grab the Oracle. This is an example, and I hate to say it because I love the character. The Oracle is uncomfortable to perform. Why would that be? Well, here we go. You see the Oracle has these curved mouth plates. Now what that is that's thermoplastic. That's like an ABS plastic that I've warmed up with a heat gun and then curved over, I can't even remember what it was. I think it was a coffee cup or something, and then let cool. So this is rigid plastic that is curved. So as a result, when my hand's inside there, my thumb is being forced down, right? And the Oracle is uncomfortable to perform. And that's one of the reasons why the Oracle flips the lid quite a lot, because I don't have any other option. I can't drop the jaw on the Oracle. It's physically impossible and it hurts. So that will happen. And in this case, it's just the design called for it. But sometimes you just gotta play through the pain. But you always want to try and make a puppet as comfortable as possible. Of course, the exact opposite of that is something like Kermit, which is like, there's nothing in Kermit's head. There's a lining in Kermit's head, and that's it. And it's just nice and floppy and flexible, and you can do anything. So that's lovely. Okay, so what are we doing? We're going to talk about this neck issue, I think probably after we get through this part. The other thing that we're going to do today is I'm going to do a slight alteration of how this mouth plate works. And we're going to mount the mouth plate in the skull a little bit differently than how this worked. This was just a standard, here, let me see if we can turn this and I'll show you how. If you're using a kind of standard, words are hard. Standard method, that's what this is. This is just gluing the mouth plate in, or gluing the fabric mouth to the rigid mouth plate. But you see how the rigid mouth plate here, this is just plastic. It comes right to the edge of the skull. What we're going to do instead is we're going to make the rigid mouth plate the same size as the fabric mouth plate, which is the thing we talked about last time as being wrong if you want to do a lip, but we're going to make it smaller and we're going to mount it inside the head rather than coming right to the edge here. And that's going to give us a lip kind of automatically because of the 1/2-inch foam. Okay, awesome. Everything's making sense. That's good. I try, but I don't know if I always succeed. Oh, here's a good example of it. You can see how the Pac-Man shape fits in there, right? So this is reticulated foam. This is it is kind of hard and scratchy and plasticky. And this is just upholstery foam. This is just standard kind of foam you can get from a craft store. But this is much softer than this. So the jaw moves much easier. That's a good thing to do if you're using reticulated foam. If you're not using reticulated foam, if you're just using polyfoam for the whole thing, you don't really have to worry about the Pac-Man thing because it's all the same foam, right? It's only about the difference between the foam densities. So anyway, here we go. I was gonna go ahead and make this ahead of time and I thought, no, we should probably just do this on stream because we're supposed to be instructional. So I'm gonna show everything. So all I've done is I've traced this out. Now, there's a couple of things here even. When you're tracing a pattern on foam, hang on, I need more coffee. That's clearly what I need is more coffee. I'm probably going too fast, I'm a bit hyper. Bring it down. Remember, you're wearing a Hawaiian shirt, you should be relaxed. When you are tracing a pattern on foam, obviously if you're doing it in two halves like this, you want to mirror the pattern. So you always want to trace your pattern and then you want to flip it to do the other side. You never want to accidentally trace both sides the same. Why? Because of these pen marks. There's a couple of reasons. Sometimes you need the mirror, other times it doesn't really matter. Like this is the same shape no matter which way you turn it, but it's the pen marks. And a lot of people do this, and I'm telling you, you will regret it. This fleece, most fleece that you get, particularly the good stuff, the nylon fleece and Fuzzell, is a little bit sheer. You can see through it a little bit. And if you've got big black pen marks on the outside of your puppet, it will show through, particularly if it's a light color like this. So that's why you mirror the pattern, and you always make sure that the pen marks are on the inside, right? You never want big black pen marks on the outside of your foam. Because if there were, and you put this skin on, you're gonna see them. They will show through. To a greater or lesser degree, it depends on, of course, how thick your fleece is. If you do 2 layers of fleece, which is a real pain and a waste of money, you know, but if this had those been black pen marks on the outside, you would see them underneath here. Sometimes you have to get a little far away to see them, but you'll see them. So we always want to make sure that we're keeping the pen marks on the inside, and that's one of the reasons why you mirror it. So when you put it together, all the marks will be on, like, in the uniform place. So we've already drawn this out, so let's cut this out. Now, cutting foam is a broad subject. The best way to cut, particularly reticulated foam, different foams cut at different easiness, shall we say. But the best way to cut reticulated foam, and generally upholstery foam like polyfoam, is with one of these. This is a razor blade. This is a hair shaper razor blade. The Derpy Goblin. Yeah, I love the Derpy Goblin too. I think the Derpy Goblin is going to sell soon. It's in a number of people's baskets, and I'm going to be a little sad to see it go, to be honest. But there can be more Derpy Goblins. So this is a hair shaper blade. Now the kind of blade, the brand name of blade does kind of matter. There are better qualities and lower qualities. In the States, Persona is the brand of choice. Here in Canada, it's called, I don't remember, hang on. Finding Diane. These are the hair shaper blades I get. But one of these will not last long. Nothing will dull a blade like cutting through foam. Foam is the worst. You might as well be sanding it. It's just, you'll go through 1 or 2 of these at least every puppet. So be aware of that. The reason that razor blades are the best is because when you're cutting foam like this, and always be aware of where the blade is. That's, you know, safety tips. That's why I have this. This is just from an old tube of super glue, but it's just a little plastic container, and when I'm not using the blade, I make sure I put the blade in here, close it up, and that way I don't have a naked blade rattling around my work surface, right? Safety first. The reason that you would use a razor blade is because when you're cutting foam, you always want to try and angle it so it's at a nice 90-degree angle. You don't want beveled edges, unless there's a reason for doing beveled edges. There is a reason sometimes, but most of the time you want a nice, clean 90-degree angle. And so what the razor blade allows you to do is, when you're on a flat surface like this, it allows you to place the blade vertically and then make your cut. You don't have to use a razor blade, particularly if it's 1/2-inch foam like this. You can use scissors. And I have scissors that I've set aside specifically for carving foam. Always do this. If you're going to get serious about this stuff, you're going to build a large collection of scissors. You never ever want to use the same scissors that you use for fabric as the ones you use for cutting foam. It's because these are going to get dull super fast, and you always want the sharpest possible scissors for fabric. But you can do it with scissors, but you just have to be real careful to try and keep your blade at a 90-degree angle. It's easier to do that with a razor blade, but you can use scissors. And the other thing is, razor blades, particularly when they're new hair shaper blades, they'll go through this stuff like butter. It's just, it's just, there's no resistance at all, and you can make really clean, precise cuts, and that's important. Oh wow! I'd like to see your. I don't even know how to pronounce axolotl. I know what they are. They're kind of like primitive salamanders, right? There's one of those characters in the Aquarium of the Pacific show that my friend Sarah Berman is a performer in. Oh yes, the Goblin. We're going to come on to the Goblin pattern itself. I'm going to be showing stuff for that, not today, but in later streams we're going to be talking about doing ears for those Goblins and how you can make new ones and how you can make different shapes from the ones that I supplied. But yeah, we'll be coming on to that. Thank you, by the way, for buying that pattern. I'm going to do more patterns in the future. I'm just not sure what. I may release the Greebly as a pattern at some point, but we'll see. So anyway, we're gonna just cut this out with our hair shaper blade. Now this blade has been used. I may actually have to get a new one because this might be a little dull, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm feeling some resistance already. So the pattern is available on the Etsy store, which is, etsy.com/Operation Puppet or etsy.com/s Operation Puppet. It'll come up in the little lower third. Yeah, it's available to be purchased on the Etsy store. Yeah, this blade is a little not great. Yeah, we'll finish this cut and then I'm gonna switch blades because this is providing too much resistance. So you'll get a feel for it eventually. You'll know when that blade is getting too. See, look, I didn't even cut all the way through. Yeah. Okay. So other part of this is when you are done with anything sharp and pointy, never just throw it in the trash. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt sanitation workers. You're going to create a big mess and possibly injure someone, including yourself. So what I do is I make one of these. This is just an old mixed nut tin. Tape it up with the lid, make a little slit, and this is like a homemade sharps container, right? So you want to put all of your used sharp things in there, and then when this is full, and this is almost full, you want to seal this whole thing up with tape, and then you throw the whole thing away, right? So you don't have a naked blade rattling loose around in the trash. Important. Safety tip, thanks Egon. It's very warm in here. I'm thinking of opening the window already. We are gonna have to glue, so we're gonna get there eventually. It's 3 whole degrees outside. 1 second, I'm gonna open the window a bit. Maybe we'll close it. Oh, it's just quite warm in here. I've used polyfoam mostly for my puppets, but now I'm learning about reticulated foam is a big reason to use one over the other. Yes, your polyfoam pals are going to be just fine. Polyfoam is completely fine to use. And in fact, I did a video series before on Twitch that is now archived on the YouTube channel about making puppets with accessible materials. And one of those things is polyfoam. So yes, polyfoam is completely fine to use. If you go back and you watch that video on the YouTube channel, I give a whole big lecture about different kinds of foam and why you use different kinds of foam, but we can go into it again. Here, let me just grab a new blade before I get into this so I can multitask. But yeah, you use reticulated foam for professional puppets mostly because it is a large pore open cell foam. And what that means is that it doesn't want to hold on to moisture. I'll take your metal sharps to recycling center too. Yes, exactly. It doesn't hold on to moisture. It wants to let moisture wick away and evaporate. And so that means that your puppet's the foam is not going to break down as quickly, because with a human hand in there generating heat and moisture, it's going to get funky and it's eventually going to break down. Oh, go ahead and put the link in. I don't know if the bot will let you, but if you want, please, by all means. We're all family here. It's fine. But that's why you would use reticulated foam over polyfoam. Polyfoam, because the pores of the cell are much smaller, it's basically a sponge. It's going to hold on to moisture. So if your puppet is going to get heavy use, the polyfoam puppets are going to break down sooner than reticulated foam puppets. However, we're not talking about months, we're talking about years. Your polyfoam puppets are going to be fine for years, no matter what you do. So you're fine. It's perfectly acceptable to use polyfoam. Most of the puppets I sell in the store are polyfoam. I'm currently building a bunch of older characters, and I do take the time to make fabric lining, and I find that makes the foam last longer. Absolutely, and particularly if you're using reticulated foam, this stuff is a bit scratchy. It's kind of plasticky. It's not soft. And when you've got this against your skin, it can kind of be abrasive, and it can kind of, be a bit itchy and stuff. So whenever I'm making a puppet out of reticulated foam, no worries, Cannon. Whenever I'm making a puppet out of reticulated foam, I always put some kind of lining in there, usually just polar fleece, something not crazy expensive. But any place that the skin is touching the surface of the puppet, I want to put a little bit of something in there just to give it a cushion so it's comfortable. Yes, exactly. Comfy is like that. I've got a lining at the inside of the entrance hole in Comfy's head, and there's a sleeve that goes down the whole thing. So there's at no time is the human skin touching the foam, and that will definitely make your puppets last longer for sure. Good questions. We got good questions in chat. I like that. Look at how much easier this is. Goodness. Always got a nice sharp blade, kids. All right, so this can be a little tricky. A little thing that you can do, you got to be careful when you're doing this, because this is very sharp. But here, let's make it a bit easier. Cut some of the excess off. You can come in and do it like this, right? But this is why you use a sharp blade. I'm not putting any pressure on this. This is knife safety, right? Always use a sharp blade that you never want to push on the blade, because that's when it's going to slip, and that's when it's going to go into your hand. There we go. Don't forget the dart. There we go. And same thing on the other side. Yeah, I keep looking at 3D printers and going, it's not really in the budget at the moment, so it's kind of a moot point, but I don't know. It's not quite there. It's not quite at the convenience level for me that it would make it worth it just yet, but we're getting close. Like, I need it to be completely zero thought, zero mess, just like press a button and go. And we're not quite there yet. But we are getting there, and we will get there. But yeah, you get a lot more options if you can 3D print stuff. Eye shapes, mechs, mouth plates. Okay. I've seen an headlining over on Swazzle's channel. Good old Swazzle, yes. Swazzle are great. If I'm not endorsing Adam Krutinger anymore, I am definitely endorsing Swazzle, at least until they decide to go into NFTs. But currently printing a small German helmet with a spike on it, which saves a lot of time. I'll bet because it just, part of the support, I guess, is the spike. There we go. Okay. Once Again, do not push. Let the blade do the work. All right, here we go. An armor set would be cool, yeah. So something like, if I was going to do armor, something like EVA foam is a good option. You know what all the cosplayers use. You can even like shape that stuff with a heat gun. It's very flexible. Okay, so there we go. There's our skull. Now, we want our little Pac-Man for the cheeks. And for that, grab it. Always save your scrap. Your scrap will always come in handy. Yeah, I guess you were here for that. We conquered several elephants in the room at the beginning, at the top of the stream, and that was one of them. Yeah. I hope Adam decides to change course on that. Again, Adam's done so much for puppet building that it's hard. And that's what makes it disappointing, right? There's no need for it as well. That's the thing. It's like, if you are getting into NFTs at this point, you are either, you know what the problems are, and you're either deciding to ignore those or deciding that those are okay, right? I don't want to get into a whole thing about NFTs. Stay tuned to my Twitter if you want to hear me go off on NFTs. Okay, anyway, so I've got our little Pac-Man shape. You'll notice how I did mirror it as well because we're trying to keep the pen marks on the inside. Now this we can cut with a razor blade as well. It's a little bit trickier with polyfoam, like with upholstery foam, because it's more rubbery, so it resists the blade a little bit. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to give them a rough cut here. Yeah, let's push him back. I may just grab the scissors and do these. I wouldn't want to cut a finger off on stream. That would be bad. We're keeping the polyfoam out because we're going to use that again in a second. I am going to grab the scissors for these just because these don't have to be super precise or anything. So just to avoid, you can't get blood out of fleece, you know. So. Of course, the only time I've ever actually injured myself with a blade doing this is when I was using scissors. I actually snipped my finger by accident once. We also have foam clay, which takes forever to dry, but dries the EVA foam. Yes, I have used that quite a bit. I'm trying to think if any current puppet is using clay foam. I have used it quite a bit in the past for things like claws and teeth. It can be a little fragile, I find. It kind of dries into a styrofoam almost. It's extremely light, but it can be a little fragile, and like it doesn't take a lot of abuse. You can really break it, but super useful. All right, there we go. There's a little Pac-Man shapes. So we're going to glue this together. Actually, no, we're not going to glue this together yet. We need to do one more thing. So when I bust the glue out, we got to bust out the mask and the gloves and everything. So, yeah, but a good use for clay foam or foam clay, or there's a whole bunch of different names for it. There's Fomo in Canada. I think it's called clay foam. Actually, I have a tub of it right over here. Here we go. Ooh. Behind the fishing wire. Foam clay. There we go. This stuff is really old. I don't even know if it's viable anymore. Let me see. It's a little dry on top, but it's like the consistency is really weird. It's almost like chewing gum at first. What material did you use to make the claws and teeth on the Derpy Goblin? Everything I'm doing like that now is literally just trimmed, carved polyfoam. I'm making everything out of polyfoam now. It's fantastic because it's soft. It compresses. You can put it in a mouth and you don't even have to worry about making room for the teeth. You can just close the mouth and the teeth compress, and then you can open it up again. I'm almost certain Animal is done with polyfoam teeth. It's great. So all of my claws, all of my teeth now are all just straight up upholstery foam. And I just trim it with scissors until I get the shape I want. And that's it. That is it. No more complicated than that. Frankie has polyfoam teeth. The Oracle's teeth are clay, paper clay. I don't think I have any paper clay currently, actually. It's nothing I would want to show on camera because it's probably full of mold. Paper clay is another really interesting modeling material. It is literally clay that's made from paper pulp. And it is another air dry modeling material, but it also dries very, very light, and you can model it just like clay. So the Oracle's teeth are all little rolled bits of paper clay. Because something that small is a little hard to do with polyfoam. What are we doing? Ah, yes, mouth plate. Okay, so for puppet hats or helmets, if you want them to be removable, what would you use for that? Good question. I currently use the soft Velcro, the eyebrows of any character, but other ideas. You know, I don't do a lot of clothing for a couple of reasons, but hats, it depends on how heavy it is, obviously. If you make it as light as possible, you can get away with... I mean, Velcro, you kind of want to not use Velcro because it's a little bit harsh on the materials. You can really distend the fabric, you know, taking it off and putting it on. What a lot of professional puppets use to just stick things to puppets, whether it's clothes or eyebrows or eyes or even like anything like that, is this stuff. This is Top Stick, or, well, this is the brand name. This is men's toupee tape, or as the label says, grooming tape. This stuff is amazing. All the professional productions will use this stuff to temporarily attach something to a puppet because it has very good grip strength, but it also comes off cleanly, right? Hello, Scarlett. How you doing? Nice to see you. I hope you saw the video in which the Oracle answered your question. Yeah, this is what a lot of professional productions will use on their puppets to like temporarily apply something to a puppet, and then something that you want to be able to remove again. Like, you know, when Ernie takes off Bert's nose, that's probably this stuff. There's probably a strip of this on the back of that. And again, it holds really well, but it's basically like a double-sided tape. But it comes off cleanly. You don't have to, like, you know, ruin the fabric to try and pull this stuff off. So that's one of the things you can use to temporarily attach something. Other than that, you can try and build in, like, snaps are often used. But you know, I would have to take that on a case-by-case basis and see how heavy the prop is, you know. Yeah. In fact, the video I just made with Jelly Roll holding the tin of coffee, the coffee was on a rod, but it was an empty coffee tin, and I just stuck his hand to the coffee tin with Top Stick. That's how you do that. Super useful. I always keep some around, even if for temporarily placing, like when you're making a puppet and you want to place like eyes or eyebrows or something, and you want to make sure you get them in the right place and be able to take them off again. Slap some Top Stick on there, and that's how you can do that. Which is actually part of Reindeer McFarlane's question. We'll get to that hopefully soon. Where are we at? We're a whole hour in. Oh goodness. All these questions, which is good. That's the point of the stream. We'll see how far we can go. Okay, so the other thing we're gonna do, what I'm actually doing is showing an alternate way of doing the mouth plate. So remember how on this one, the mouth plate comes right to the edge. And on this one, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna mount the mouth plate inside. So what that means is we need a smaller, rigid mouth plate. We need a rigid mouth plate the same diameter as our fabric mouth plate. So there's our fabric mouth plate. I've already gone ahead and prepared this ahead of time like a cooking show. So I've made a plastic mouth plate that is the same diameter as our fabric mouth plate, just with the gap in the middle. We're gonna do the gap thing. A long-time fan of Topstick. You know, you can use double-sided carpet tape for larger items. Okay, yeah, sure. It's a little cheaper in the long run. Sure. I mean, my worry with the carpet tape is that it's really, really strong, right? I mean, it's designed to hold carpets on. And I'm worried that when you pull it off, it would distend, the fabric would distress the materials a little bit. But you would know better than I. I've never actually used it, so. That would be my concern with that. And that's one of the reasons why Topstick is real good, is because it's designed to come off cleanly and not do that. So anyway, here we go. I've made this rigid mouth plate. This is just ABS plastic that is the same diameter as our fabric mouth plate. We'll just show this in a second, but what we're going to do is I'm going to make a strip of 1/2-inch polyfoam, and we're going to glue that on the inside, make a little ridge along the inside, and that's what we're actually going to be gluing to the skull. Because if we were to glue this into a skull and try and get inside and glue just this edge, there's not enough surface area here for the glue to grab onto. So it would be a little bit tricky and wobbly. I know that one of the things that Swazzle does is they'll actually carve a little shelf into the inside, and they'll mount the mouth plates on this little shelf that they carve inside. That's great. This is an alternate way of doing pretty much the same thing. You're just putting the shelf on here rather than carving it out of here. So you'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. But I just need like a couple of strips of 1/2-inch. So let's make some 1/2-inch strips. And this is fine to make out of upholstery foam. In fact, you should make it out of upholstery foam, or at least something softer than reticulated foam. Music is staying this time. Last time the music ended and nobody noticed. We'll see if we can do this with the blade. That's one nice thing blades are good for, is like long straight lines. All right. So you see, because this is 1/2-inch thick, I've measured out 1/2-inch, and we're just carving these strips. Right, so that's garbage. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to glue these. Here I've marked, this is going to be the inside. I've marked, we're just going to glue these along that edge like that. And that will give us a surface to glue onto the inside of the skull then. So it's time. Sound the alarm, it is time. Bust out the barge. 1 second, let me open the window, get the fans going. Ooh. It's a whole thing. This is a whirlwind. This one's going fast. It's because we have so many people asking such excellent questions, which is great. That's really encouraging. If we can keep this momentum up, I'll be doing this a lot. Facebook is, or not Facebook, YouTube is still winning for a number of viewers. As the chat is evidence to. Okay, so as always, when you are using barge, this is toxic, this is nauseous, you don't want to, no, nauseous, it is not, it can make you nauseous, it's noxious. You do not want to be breathing this stuff in, so ventilator, sorry, respirator, not ventilator. That's different living in COVID. And gloves. I'm trying to reuse gloves as much as possible, obviously, because I don't want to have to buy more PPE that will take it out of circulation for healthcare workers. So these I used previously, so let me just throw them the right way in and try and be very careful and not get anything on them. But yeah, so what I'm going to do, I have another mic somewhere. Here's my other mic pack. I'm going to clip this onto the external strap of the mask. You're watching on Twitch and YouTube. That's cheating of some sort. I don't know. Actually, thank you. You're making the numbers go up. So this is so I don't have to like yell when I'm in the mask. But give me a minute. It takes a second for me to switch the mics around. So, but this makes it so it's possible for me to talk and you to hear me when I'm in the mask rather than me having to yell. I just ripped the glove. Let's see. It's not that bad. Oh no. I'll try not to get any glue on my hands. I keep using the royal we when I'm doing this. I don't know why. Makes me seem like I'm bigger than I am, I think. There's more going on behind the scenes. There really isn't. This is it. All right. So I'm gonna mute the mic for a second while I switch the mics around. And I'll be right back. Am I Boba Fett? I'm Boba Fett now. Okay, I guess I'm Bane now. Okay. Shout out if you can hear me. If you can at least understand the words that are coming out of my muted mouth. Mm-hmm. One, two, one, two. It looks like something's gone through. All right. So first things first, let's do the skull together. I brush. I generally brush. Thank you. You're good to go. I generally brush. I know that there are those who think that it's a sin and a crime to brush barge. I've never had much luck with the stipple technique. But apparently that's the way you should do it because you get a more even spread. It kind of glops up a little bit when you're using the brush. I've never been terribly good at using the stipple technique, so I brush. But try it both ways. You should breathe like Vader. Again, the thing with all glue, particularly contact cement, is you want to go light and thin. You don't want a whole lot. Most of the time, when people go wrong with the glue, it's because they put too much on. I never used to be quite as insistent on using the respirator as I now am, but it really is, like, you really should. Even if you're in a well-ventilated space, you really should. You don't want to be breathing this stuff in. Other than that, please do use it, though. Like,
There is no substitute for a good contact cement, and this industrial grade stuff is the only stuff that really works. Hot glue is not sufficient for this job. For several reasons, and we'll get to why momentarily. Then goes to the dark side. Well, honey, I've been there. I've been there and came back. I don't know why I did that in a... I got jelly roll in my brain, that's why. So we're just putting a light coat of barge on. When you do this, if you do the Pac-Man cheeks thing, you want to put those on after you've assembled the skull, but before you put the mouth plate in. It's just easier. Dude, we're getting good numbers. I like these numbers. Okay, there we go. So we're going to glue this together first. I am going to use the hairdryer. We'll see. I'm not going to mute the mic. We'll see if the mic picks this up or not. This might sound horrible. I apologize in advance. No, it's not. Horrible. I'm glad this is a nice Friday morning for you. This is a nice Friday morning for me too. Well, I want to do it more often. Alright, that may not be dry enough. So you want to get the glue so it's just tacky. So it's just a little bit sticky to the touch, but nothing comes off on your fingers. That's the goal. The first thing we're going to do is close the darts. Now you'll notice I'm making sure the pen marks are on the inside. I'm not doing this, I'm doing this. Close those darts first. The glue isn't quite dry enough. It's a little bit gloppy. So I think I'm going to hit it with the hairdryer a bit longer. It's starting to pull apart a little bit. Sometimes you just gotta see how it goes and course correct. It's very nice. I appreciate that. Half the time, if your glue is pulling apart, that's the problem. It's not dry enough. Seems a bit counterintuitive to dry the glue before you stick it together, but that's how contact cement works. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to stick these together. So we're going to, notice how I'm laying them flat on the surface here. That will line them up really nicely and avoid any unwanted edges. Till we kind of get to the point where it's curving, we can't really do that anymore. Use the dart as a registration mark. I'm just doing the edge at the moment, as you can see. And once we've got the edges lined up, we've also used small sewing clips to hold the foam together while it's drying if it's not quite tacky enough. Yeah, well, so are you using contact cement or hot glue? If you're using contact cement, you really don't need to do that. You dry the glue before you ever stick them together. So the nice thing about contact cement, for example, is now this edge is not aligned quite as nicely as I'd like it to be. And before you pinch this together, you can just pull this apart and reseat it. And you can really, really get precise and dial it into exactly where you want it to be before you commit. That's the thing you can't do with hot glue. Hot glue, you're one and done. So once it's where you want it to be, you go around and you give it a pinch, and it's the pressure that really locks the glue into place. Likewise on the bottom jaw. Now the other thing, the nice thing about contact cement is you've got working time. You don't have to rough this. This will stay viable for like an hour. So you can, you know, change your mind. You can pull something apart. Right, yeah, okay, good. So there we go. There's our skull. No problem. So now we're gonna put the Pac-Man shapes in. So remember, you wanna get these in, line them up just like that, making sure that the pen marks are on the inside. If you make ones that are bigger than the hole, you just start at one end and you kind of go around and you squeeze them in and you make them fit. And if you make a bigger Pac-Man than the hole, it's gonna puff the cheeks out, which is really nice. This ripped glove is making me self-conscious. That's too much glue. I put too much glue. Too gloppy. I'm gonna have to dry that extra long. This tin of barge is almost done. I always have one in reserve, but I'm gonna have to order some more. I didn't do the soft cheeks on the Goblin. I used upholstery foam for the whole build, but yeah, absolutely. Now you can still do the soft cheek thing if you want to control the size of the cheeks. Even if you're not going for the softness thing, it can still be like a cosmetic thing that you do. Let me get the Krampus down. I think I'll be able to get the Krampus down without destroying things. And I'll show you what I mean by the cheek bulge momentarily. So we're going to do both of these at the same time. You see what I'm brushing on? I'm using kind of the stipple technique as I'm brushing. I'm not like going big strokes. I'm doing little kind of dabs. You just prevent things from glopping up and getting streaky. It's also a little bit easier to brush on the polyfoam. So yeah, for those of you on Twitch who may not have seen the previous stream, because I didn't stream it on Twitch, if you go to the YouTube channel, there was a previous stream that I did where we built the first half of this. If you want to catch up and do some homework. This is an alternate version of the thing that we built on last stream. All right, hairdryer time. Stuff always goes flying. Here we go. This is another thing I make sure I do. Whenever I'm drying something and I got more than one, I try and stack them up and dry them all at the same time. Oh, and I'm worried about the hairdryer. So I'm only using the hairdryer. I use the hairdryer A if I'm in a hurry, or B if I'm on stream because I'm in a hurry. It's better to not use the hairdryer. It's better to let this air dry because you get it more evenly dry. If you dry it with a hairdryer, sometimes you can form kind of a crust on the outside, and the inside won't be dry yet. You get a better bond quicker if you let it air dry. But we're on stream, so I'm saving time. And the other thing is I'm using a hairdryer that I can turn the heating element off, because if you heat this up, it'll reactivate the glue. Which we're going to hopefully do soon. You'll see why. I have a little special treat, or possibly hilarious mistake in store. All right, so when you're putting these in, you just decide at which end you want to start. I'm going to start at the top. And just make sure you start at the top on both sides so they're even, because the way this sits will determine which end you start in. Because soft materials get twisted and they move around, so just be consistent. So again, we're just lightly tacking this in place. We're not squeezing, we're not holding down until we get it seated the way we like it, and then we're going to go around and give it a pinch. There we go. The upside. Top. Making sure the pen mark is on the inside. Easy peasy. Next, we want to take our strips of 1/2 inch foam and make our little shelf along the mouth plate like that. We should probably measure it. That's a good idea. Let's do that. We'll just start at the end here and show you what needs around. Try and make this nice clean cut. Well, we're going to need that in a second, so I'm going to put the blade there, and remember that I put the blade there. There we got the pen mark on the inside. And so we're going to cut this a little bit longer than we think we need, but it's always good to leave yourself a little wiggle room. And trim it off when it's done. There's a bit there. So that's for the bottom. Up the bud, hello! Welcome back. It's going well. How are things going with you? I'm glad to see you again. Cut these a little bit longer than we need to do this so we can trim it down when it's on. Putting the blade back in a safe place because we're responsible people. Another word, when you're gluing onto plastic. Plastic is a polymer, which means it is non-porous. And as a result, it does not take glue very well. So what you want to do if you're going to glue onto plastic is you want to rough up the surface first. This has been sanded with a high grit or a low grit sandpaper, so it's kind of rough and there's scratchy bits in it. That will help the glue to adhere. The other thing you can do that I often do is I'll line this with a fabric of some kind, and the fabric will be the thing that you're gluing onto rather than the plastic itself. Oh, that's a shame at the bottom. I'm sorry to hear it. I hope things get better. Believe me, I understand how that all goes. We're just going to put some glue. And this is why we always draw guides. Always mark center. Mark everything. You think, sometimes you think I'm not going to need that. You always need it. Thank you. Yes, this is my third Muppet shirt like this, and I haven't worn this yet. This is the first time. I've been saving them for a special occasion, like streaming. Forgive me if I do miss the occasional chat message, FYI. I probably will. It's the bacon puppets focusing. Nothing personal, I promise. Putting the glue on just one side, obviously. For the moment, it's going to go on another side soon. You know what I've done? I've completely forgot. Okay, this is the bottom. Okay, good. I just lectured people on marking things and I didn't mark it. See? It's an object lesson. I did that on purpose. Tell me a time when animals not accepted. I'll build an animal. I've built several things that are very much like animal. There we go. Hair dryer time. I honestly don't remember where I got the shirts, Steaming Dreamer. I had to search quite a bit before I found Hawaiian shirts. The problem with searching Hawaiian shirt and Muppet as a keyword is you always just get pictures of Gonzo. Because Gonzo's always wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I don't remember, but maybe if I remember, I'll look it up for next time. It's been a while. It took forever. They came from China. These are obviously like, oh, we've just done a Google image search and slapped this on. This is copyright infringement all over the place. These are not officially licensed shirts. I imagine it is quite a bit like when you do bad handwriting to demonstrate to children. Okay, bottom is the short one. This is the short one. This is the bottom. Okay, so we're going to stick this on, making sure that the pen marks are on the inside. Here, so people can see what the heck I'm doing. Oh, that's the other thing. There's another camera. I totally forgot. I got into it so fast. I forgot about the close-up cam. Let me show that in a minute. So I'm just laying it on there, and you see how it's putting it on like we're making a denture, right? That's it. We're basically making a denture. Remember, this is the inside. Okay, so that's gonna go like that on the thumb. Which is another reason why I'm unsure about grips for this, because there's so little room in here, and you probably don't need grips in a head this small. But that is a decision I will make later. That's the edge. We get to the point we want. Give it a good old pinch, and then we're going to trim it up. Why is it shorter on the bottom? Good question, because this puppet has a little bit of an overbite, right? So the mouth plate on the bottom is shorter than the mouth plate on the top. I love that technique. I tried Swazzle Shelf and it was difficult. Yes, and this is very similar, but this is a slightly easier to do version of that. You don't have to carve in the inside of the mouth. This is a very, very same principle as that. And I just started playing with this. I haven't done this. I did this on Comfy back there. What's their shelf? So what they do, and this is really good to do, if you can. It's tricky. But what they do is they take the inside of the mouth here and they actually carve a little strip off the inside of the mouth, which creates a little kind of stepped shelf thing. And that's what they glue the mouth plate into. And it's a very similar process to this, except that we're kind of making another surface to glue onto instead of carving it out of the top, right? I have a question while you're building the jaw area. I built a goblin with Underbite. When I was skinning him, his jaws lined up. Did I miss something? Possibly. I would have to see what you did to tell you. Yeah, I would have to. Oh yeah, hello. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. The pattern should be good. I don't know if Travis is still around. I think Travis has built an Underbite Goblin before. And I built an Underbite Goblin before with that pattern, so it should be just fine. But if you've got some pictures, here's another thing actually. If you're joining me regularly, take pictures while you're building of the build as you go along. And then, by all means, send them to me on whatever social media platform you're following me on. I'll take a look, and if you need some advice, I'll be happy to answer that. It's also just fun to post social media pictures, right? I am doing well, Koya. How are you? Okay, so now we're ready to put these in place. So what we got to remember is that the little shelf bit that we've built is going to go on the inside. So we're actually mounting these inside the head. Now we have a decision to make because we don't have to put this right at the edge. We can actually go in and recess this and make a physical recessed lip, right? So that's a choice you can make right now. Sounds good, Heath, thanks. I'm gonna go in a little bit. We don't want to go too far because this head is so small that we're just gonna leave ourselves with no room inside. So I'm gonna go in, I don't know, about 1/4 inch, I think. So, I really should mark that, but it's a little bit late. This is because of my medical problems. Oh no! Speaking of mouth plates, I'm planning a kobold and want a good malleable face perimeter gonzo. Should I use a foam or rubber for a flexible mouth plate? Flexible mouth plates are very tricky. That's a whole other subject. Let me put this in first and let me get the mask off and so I can talk a little bit clearer, and then we'll go into flexible mouth plates. So you know what? I'm not going to recess this too much because I don't want to run the risk of misaligning it. So I am just going to come to the edge. Now the way that we line this up is you make sure you start from the middle and line up your center lines, and then just go around and lay it in like that. So we're going to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is put glue on the inside. I know it's kind of hard to see. Which is why the next time at least, I'll get the other camera out and we'll show off that. There's so much to do. I'm trying to do it all at once. Should slow down, take a breath. I am streaming on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter, if you can believe that. I don't even know why I'm streaming on Twitter, but I am, as I can. But yes, multiple. We're going full restream. Never go full restream. Too bad. You know, I figure since this stream is never going to be big enough to worry about exclusivity, I'm gonna go where the people are. I'm just gonna go where the audience is and not make them go to another platform, right? Like, that's the way to maximize the number of people who can watch the stream. Okay, so there we go. I've got glue on the inside now, just lining the whole mouth. So now when we're gonna put glue on here, we're gonna put that on the surface edge, right? The edge that's going to be glued to the inside. So this is the way I did Comfy, and Comfy came out real good. So I'm probably going to be using this one. The disadvantage of it is you're kind of stuck with a 1/2 inch lip if you do it this way. You can do it different, but 1/2 inch is the easiest because of the thickness of the foam itself, right? All right, hopefully that will do. I'm not super confident I got the glue best on the skull, but I guess we'll find out. So now we're gonna dry it. Travis, is there a preferred place where we can share our Kevin-influenced builds with you? Good question. I almost wonder if I should open up user accounts on OperationPuppet.com, but I think we're probably not there yet. But whatever platform you're on, I think you can post on, if you're on Facebook, I think you can post publicly on there. I'm not sure. Instagram is a good choice as well. Just tag me. Or just tag me on whatever social media. Post the pictures and then tag me. I'm on almost everything, so I think that's it. Although at some point, if we get big enough, I'll absolutely open up user accounts on OperationPuppet.com, and we can just have like a public space there for everyone to share their builds. That's a really cool idea. I like that. All right, here we go. So one of the problems is I covered up. Okay, so we know this is top, so this is bottom because it's shorter. So we're going to start at the center. Remember that we're going on the inside. Now this is going to want to grab on to places where you don't want it to grab on. That's okay because it is contact cement. We'll start in the center. We're just going to work our way around. Trying to make it as even as possible. A bit of a challenge. But again, the nice thing about contact cement is until you pinch it together, you can pull it apart and reseat it, and you know, working time, and it's a wonderful thing. All right, that's not too bad. That'll look okay. Be sure about the bottom on the bottom. That's important. Okay. There we go. Now we see how that's recessed inside there. So we've got a little physical lip. That's real nice. And so the same thing on the top. See, if I had drawn a guide in the start with, this would have been a whole lot easier, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Means it's probably going to be a bit uneven, but in the end, I don't think that'll matter. Right. There we go. So we have our gap in the back that we talked about. Yes, we're going to talk about that in a second, actually, because I'm going to attempt to actually take this skin off of this skull and put it on this skull. May not work. We'll see. We'll talk about reactivating contact cement momentarily. But yeah, again, a number of advantages to contact cement, one of them being you can reactivate it and try again. If I had drawn guides, it would have been easier, so, you know, but there we go. And here's our skull with our nice recessed mouth plate. That's real nice. I'm going to take the mask off and we're going to talk about flexible mouth plates. Maybe we'll get to the other part, maybe we won't. I don't know, what's our time? Wow, 12:30 already. Goodness me. Okay, I gotta mute the mic so I can switch them around. Give me 1 second.
One, two. All right, here we go. Woo. Flexible mouth plates. I'm not gonna take the gloves off because if we do get to the next part, I'm gonna be putting the mask back on. So, oh boy, let me tell you, need some liquid. Yeah, I'm not crazy about mask voice. I've looked into, like, you know, the stuff that the mic systems that cosplayers use to when they're playing Stormtroopers or Vader or something, so they can have the external speaker and like none of it's going to work for an actual respirator, unfortunately. But I have looked at that. Flexible mouth plates. You know what? One of these gloves is stripped. If we need to use another pair, I'll use another pair, because if we're talking about flexible mouth plates, there's only one absolute authority on flexible mouth plates. Of course. That's the frog. So, hi everyone. Good old Kermit here is famous for the flexibility of his mouth plate, of course. Because I know he's going out of focus because of the silly camera thing. And I'm out of focus too. The forbidden amphibian, yes. I'm going out of focus. I know what's going on. Help. This particular Kermit is made from a double layer of 1/8 inch rubber, gasket rubber. That's the thing. And one of the things I found when I was building, this is the third Kermit I've actually built. Rubber in general is really tough to work with because of it just doesn't want to take glue, right? Dollar store table mats have worked great for me so far. Yes, we'll get to that. Most rubber that you get nowadays is actually silicone based, and that stuff just pushes glue away, even barge, like anything. There are silicone based adhesives that you can use, but those are hard to get and tough to work with, and you don't want to mess with that stuff. It's even worse than barge. So I managed to find some gasket rubber that did want to take barge. I got it, I think, on Amazon. I don't even remember. I got a couple more sheets of it left, but this is 2 layers, because one layer was too thin. So this is 2 layers of 1/16 inch. I can actually show you the rubber itself. But as you can see, you've got enough flexibility that it does spring back into shape. It's pretty good. You can do all the Kermity things. And let me show you the actual rubber itself. So this is the stuff that I found that worked. There's stuff you can often find as gasket rubber that's this kind of reddish brown color. That's the stuff that I find does not want to take glue. But I did find this black stuff. This is what that Kermit is made out of. I can even show you the brand name here. So this is Matnix rubber sheets. A60/65. This is 16 by 16. Now what I do with this, you can see how this is very glossy. I sand this first before I attempt to glue this. So Kermit's mouth is actually 2 of these sandwiched together and then lined with polar fleece. And that's it. There's no grips or anything. It's just this stuff. And that has worked pretty good for a flexible mouth plate so far. Now, it's not easy to work with. You may not be able to find rubber that you're gonna be able to work with easily. So as an alternative, if you want to do a flexible mouth plate, what I often do, and this is what I make greebly mouth plates out of, this is a flexible cutting mat. You can get these at dollar stores. I got this, I think, on Amazon, probably. But as it was Heath that was saying, yeah, these kind of mats, this is just plastic, but it's designed to be flexible, right? I need to go out, but thank you. I'll try that new mouth plate method soon. I'll watch the second half of the stream later this evening. Good stuff, because I think, actually, you know what? We're not going to have time to get the second half of your question. Unfortunately, I don't really want to go longer than 2 hours, but we will get to it. We'll get to, because it's an important question and it's something that we should talk about. We'll talk about it at the top of the next stream, I promise. So yeah, so this is what I will often use if I'm doing a flexible mouth plate. In fact, the prototype Kermit that I built while I was still dialing in my design, I used this stuff for his mouth plate and it worked just fine. Now, this is not as flexible as rubber. It's stiffer, so you're not gonna get quite the range out of it that you would out of rubber, but this is much easier to work with. You sand this down, it will take glue. This is just, it's nicer to cut. Everything about this is nicer to work with than rubber. So if you can find rubber that works for you, great. If not, this is a very viable alternative, and these are dirt cheap. These are like, you know, a couple of bucks for a pack of 5 kind of thing. So that's what I often will use if I'm doing a semi-flexible mouth plate, right? It's not completely Kermity. But you will be able to get an expression, you'll be able to bend it and stuff like that. So that's my advice for flexible mouth plates. You can try using foam, but when I've ever done a foam mouth plate, I often run into the problem that the foam just wants to bow in weird ways or collapse. One of the reasons why I did 2 layers of that rubber is because the 1/16 inch thickness, it's too thin and it wants to bow and it wants to do weird, like, you know, it wants to bend in ways that it shouldn't bend. Can you just craft foam sheets? Maybe layer them up. No, craft foam is really not a good idea for that, because craft foam, I'm gonna show you why. I've got some that I'm not gonna use. I got white craft foam here for some reason. It came in a color pack. I don't know what I'd ever use this for, but here's craft foam. Wrong camera, sorry. Here we go. So craft foam is very useful for a lot of things. So I'm making pupils, I make eyeliner, like the line that goes around the eye, I make that out of craft foam. Tongues is fantastic to make it a craft foam, but craft foam tears really easily. Right. So I wouldn't make a mouth plate. This stuff is even laminated. I wouldn't make a mouth plate out of this. Even if you do layer it up, because you're eventually, like, mouth plates undergo a lot of stress, right? So this is eventually gonna break down. It's gonna rip. You're gonna have to repair it. I don't think this is a particularly good material. And also, this stuff does not spring back into shape, right? You can crunch this up, and that stays crunched. Right, so that's the opposite of what you want for a mouth plate material. You want something that's going to spring back into shape. So I would not advise craft foam, although craft foam is very useful for lots of things, features particularly, pupils, eyeliners, tongue, uvula, nails. Lots of little feature stuff like that is really great use for craft foam. I think that's it. Unfortunately, we're not going to get, I mean, we're almost at time here. Whew, that was a lot. So we're not going to get, oh man, we're not going to get to the taking the skin off of this, which, you know what, that's fine, because the next time this is going to be sitting around even longer, and it can be a challenge the longer this sits around and the glue has completely set up. We're going to try and reactivate this glue and pull this skin off of here and put this skin on this skull. That's the goal. It may not work, but I figure, you know what, even if it doesn't work, that's still a valuable thing to see, right? That's still like, here's what can go wrong. It's still something that people could learn from, I think. So here's what we accomplished today. We got to, now I know it looks weird because of the bulginess. Once we get the skin on there, that's all going to pull in, and that's going to be fine. But you'll see, because of the gap and because of the soft, let's get the focus here, and because of the soft Pac-Man-y cheeks, look at the kind of range of motion you got on this thing. That's real good, right? That's going to stiffen up quite a lot once the skin goes on, but it's not going to completely go away. You're still going to have a good range of motion there. This feels really good. And you know what? Those shells are actually acting like grips. That's pretty good. All right. Good stuff. We got 10 minutes. Anybody got questions? Anybody got a 10-minute question that I can answer on the Q&A build stream? We are definitely doing more of these. I'm having a great time. I think this is fantastic. I hope it's helpful for people. I don't want to present myself as some kind of huge authority. I'm relatively new to this. I've only been doing this for about 2 years. There's lots of people like Swazzle who have been doing it for like decades. So they are the authorities, not me. I'm just a guy who has had some luck with this. And I think I can pass on the stuff I've learned. So I hope that this is being helpful for people. And fun, right? I can't remember who said it, but it's, you know, it is a nice way to spend a morning, right? This is the kind of thing we need right now. We need chill, fun things that are wholesome. Right? So I hope that's what we're bringing to the table here. That was a lot. It's a whole lot. And we still didn't get to half of the stuff that we want to do. How do you attach ping pong ball eyes when they are cut in half? Excellent question, and I can answer that. There's a couple of ways you can do it. So I think I may actually have some already. Let me stand up. I'm sorry, the camera's gonna get weird. Well, got one of these. How about that? That's not really okay. Here we go. Here we are. Back at the top. So here is a ping pong ball cut in half. So let's say you wanted to attach this. For example, if you were making a Kermit, this is a good way. How I did Kermit's eyes. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can glue like a bolt or something in there and then use a nut and a washer to attach it. That's very common, although the problem with that is you've got something sticking down into the puppet, and it may stick down at the performer's hand. So that's not great. The way I did Kermit's eyes is Kermit's eyes are ping pong balls. But what I did was I cut just some ABS plastic, some styrene, in the same diameter as the bottom of the ping pong ball, and then I sanded it and sanded it until it just barely fit inside. And then I just put some glue around the rim, and I glued in a flat piece of a disc of plastic into the bottom, and then I just glued it, right? Because it gives you a nice surface area to just glue onto. Another way you can do it, if you don't want to do a bolt, you can use, sometimes this will work, sometimes it won't. These might be too big. These are doll joints. I use these a lot. Thank you, Heath. Thank you very much. These are doll joints. Obviously, I use these to attach arms and legs, but you can use them to attach anything. I attach noses with these, and you can glue, if they're long enough, you can glue a doll joint into a ping pong ball and then use the washer on the other side to snap that in place. You can make safety eyes, basically. There's dull safety eyes that work like that. So there's another way. So I think that answers it, right? That's it. I'm trying to think of any other ways. That's it. You just either want to have some kind of peg system that you glue in there. That's not always super reliable, and those can break kind of easily, I find. I have found that making a disc that sits on the inside and then gluing it down is the way. The other way, of course, is you just take a ping pong ball and then you fill it with resin and you make a hard, solid object. The problem with that is this gets a little heavy, and I know it doesn't seem like it should be so heavy that it makes a difference, but for a puppet, everything makes a difference. Every little bit of weight the performer is going to feel eventually. So you want to make everything as light as possible. So a hollow ping pong ball with a disc glued in the bottom is a much better option than a solid resin eye. Unless it's a thin, if the resin is thin, like you're just doing a disc eye or something like that, that's fine. But something like this much thickness of resin is too much. I use these for vacuum form bucks. This is what I put on a vacuum form machine that can form a shell with thermoplastic around it. And that's what that's for. But there we go. I think that's it. Have you had success with painting eyes to different colors, say white ping pong balls to green? I haven't even tried. I don't think I would, just because I'm not terribly good at painting. If I did want to do different color ping pong ball eyes, I would probably, definitely use spray paint or airbrush if you have access to one. I would feel that this plastic isn't going to take paint very well. It'll probably like chip or run off or be streaky or something. You probably have to do a whole bunch of coats. But I would, if that's something you want to do, by all means experiment with it. If I wanted to do different color pupils and things, that's just a matter of like, I either use sticky back velvet or sticky back craft foam or even felt, and just get different colors of that and cut out, punch out circles. But yeah, I think that will do it. Where are we? We are 12:55. I think I need lunch. So I think that's gonna do it. Wow, what a whirlwind. So pretty good. I'm pleased. We had good numbers for a stream this size. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope this was helpful. The next one is going to be, so I'm going to try and do the second and the last Friday of every month. So stay tuned on my social media. On YouTube, I'll put it up as a scheduled thing, just like this one. And hopefully we'll get to Reindeer McFarlane's second half of the question that they asked. I've got a whole bunch of questions, and obviously we're getting questions on the stream, which is fantastic. That's what I want. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you have a great weekend. I'm going to go have some lunch. So happy building, and hopefully we will see you next time.